I saw YMS's and Mr. Gigi's childhood trauma videos, and in a nutshell, their videos talk about different types of media that scared them as kids. And, this got me thinking about, what got me scared when I was little. So here I share with you movies, TV shows, and stories that kind of traumatized me as a child, and some that even, not gonna lie, affect me today. I kind of ranked these as the one that caused me the least amount of trauma, but still kind of impacted me in a weird way, to the one that caused me the most amount of trauma, where I think about it sometimes even to this day. My dad loves horror movies, so he would buy them literally all the time. One day, while looking through his movies, I found one called The Dentist. I've never seen this movie, but I read the premise on the back of the DVD, and it definitely was enough to just send my mind on a spiral. I'll read you the premise. Dr. Alan Feinstein is a rich and successful Beverly Hills dentist. There's only one problem. He's insane. Dr. Feinstein loves perfection, and he expects it of everyone. Unfortunately, no one is perfect. This unacceptable fact annoys the good doctor and leads him to commit his one small imperfection: murder. That just caused me to be afraid of the dentist. That's really all it did. Every time my parents would say, hey, it's time to go to the dentist, I'd be like, I don't want to, because the dentist is going to get me. Now, the reason I put this the lowest on my list is because I kind of got over it really quickly. After a couple visits, I was like, okay, he's not that bad. The next one that I'm going to talk about kind of took me a minute to get over. Growing up, my parents would take me to watch all kinds of movies, including, horror movies. And here's the thing. My dad was a big fan of Resident Evil. So when Resident Evil Extinction came out, of course we were going to go watch it, and we went to watch it as a family. It's kind of funny that my dad is some of the causes of my childhood trauma. This movie was just something that my 7-year-old brain just couldn't handle. That's the reality of it. I was enjoying the movie, but then they showed this scene.
Get back!
I don't know if it was the shock or the great visual effects or the acting, but this scene scared me to my core. I was so scared that I literally started crying. And it got so bad that my dad had to just take me to the back of the theater and give me his old Motorola Razr so I can play games and he could watch the movie, I couldn't watch it. I just couldn't. I tried watching it at home when he bought it, but I still couldn't get over that fear. It wasn't until a few years later that I watched it again, and then it was like, it's fine. It actually ended up being not a terrible movie, so I think it's kind of fun. Now we're slowly reaching that area where things kind of scared me a little more than I want to admit. Spike's 1,000 Ways to Die, Season 3, Episode 3, Stupid is as Stupid Dies, Tongue-Tied. That's the longest title ever. But basically, when I was little, I would stay up late watching TV, and one night I tuned into Spike. I don't think that's a TV channel anymore, but Spike, because they were playing a show that I kind of liked watching, 1,000 Ways to Die. Now, if you've never seen the show, the way it worked is that they would show you short stories and clips of extreme ways that people died, and they did it by using dark humor, so you would have kind of that comedy quote-unquote side behind it with this dark side, this ugly and extreme side. Now, the show itself didn't really scare me, but this one specific clip called Tongue-Tied just really made me uneasy. Basically, this couple were in two different cars, and those cars started racing each other. The couple then literally go out the sides of the cars, and while the cars are moving, they start kissing each other. The thing is that their tongues were pierced, so as they're kissing, their tongues get stuck together. Literally, as this is happening, a forklift drives in the middle of the road, just moving stuff, and they can't get unstuck, and the racers are approaching the forklift, and literally they get decapitated. Why was I watching this as a kid? The scene was just so intense that I just couldn't help it, and I started crying. I was crying so loud that my mom literally came into the room worried, and she started comforting me. And the episode really did a great job of showing graphically the way that it happened, and I think that's what scared me. I was even watching the clip as I was writing the script for this video, and it made me very uneasy. It kind of brought me back to that moment, so it even still affected me a little bit today. The Killer in the Backseat is an urban legend that I really don't know where it started, but the way the story goes is that essentially this woman was driving in her car, and this other car just gets behind her and starts flashing their lights. The woman, obviously, she thinks they're just trying to get through, right? So she moves to the right lane. The car moves to the right lane with her and continues to flash. And then she moves to the left lane again, and the car continues to stay behind her and flash. She gets worried, so she exits the freeway, or the road that she was in, and the car follows her. She gets so scared that she starts booking it to a police station, and there, when she finally arrives, she just runs to the police officers and tells them that there's a car following her. When that car that was following her approaches the police station, parks, right, and then the police officers arrest him, and then the guy who was driving the car says, wait, no, I was trying to warn her because there was a guy in the back of her seat who had a knife and was trying to get her. And obviously when you say it in a story form, it's a lot scarier than just talking about the story. But when I first heard the story, it really messed with me because it was so unexpected. I had never heard a story like this before, And as a kid, I would always go to the back of my parents' cars before I would get in, just to make sure there was nobody there. And today, I kid you not, to this day, because of that, I always check the back of my seat before getting into my car, especially if I'm getting into my car during the night. So this is the last one, in my opinion, the scariest one for me as a kid, the one that traumatized me the most. Bloody Mary. The original story is actually quite different than the story that I heard. It basically is based on Queen Mary, the first queen of England, and they nicknamed her Bloody Mary because she killed a lot of people during her reign. The problem is that the story that I heard in middle school went like this. This little girl had a weird disease that caused her to look like she was dead, but she was still conscious. Because these were old times, doctors really didn't know much about this illness, so they pronounced Mary to be dead. That was the name of the girl, Mary. When the family goes to bury her outside of their house, they put a bell above the surface that had a string going down to the coffin. The idea was that if the bell started ringing, the person buried would be alive, right? The problem is that a thunderstorm came that night, and while it was raining, Mary wakes up inside the coffin and starts scratching the roof of it. She finds the little string that's connected to the bell and she starts pulling it like crazy, right? To the point that the string comes off the bell. And in the morning, the father checks on the grave and notices the string is detached from the bell and basically begins to dig. When they open the coffin, all they see is Mary with blood on her dress and hands from all the scratching that she did on the roof of the coffin. And basically that's how she got her name. The legend says that if you say her name 3 times in the mirror, which feels a little off, I don't know why I don't know how it connects in those things, but the legend says this, that if you say her name 3 times in the mirror, she will appear and scratch you until you die. And as a kid, well, this really messed with me because I had a long mirror on my door in my room. So every time I would pass that mirror, you know, to exit the room, I would think, what if Bloody Mary gets me? What if I think Bloody Mary 3 times? Would that make her get me even though I'm not really saying it? So as a kid, it really messed with me, you know, and it got bad because at night, every time I would pass a mirror, I would have to close my eyes, you know. So it got to the point that it really affected me even in my sleep, because I would bring all those thoughts into my head, and it would be this whole thing of, wait a minute, is she gonna come into my dreams? Even though the legend says that it's mirrors, but still, I would think that. It just really messed with me, and there were even nights that I just couldn't sleep just because those ideas kept popping into my mind. So in conclusion, I think that what made all these things scary for me is that I just overthought them. You know, those thoughts just kept coming into my mind about these things, and it just made me even more scared than it really is, you know. And I think that's the most thing, that's a good lesson to learn from all these fears and all these quote-unquote childhood trauma, is that if you allow it, if you keep thinking about it, if you let it come into your mind, and if you let those thoughts just go into a spiral, uncontrollable spiral, then it becomes a fear, you know, because something that you can't control. So I guess the lesson here is, try to take control of your fears, you know? Face your fears. Go through them and learn from them and grow from them, you know? And I think it's hard, but I think it's definitely possible, because even though I still check the back of my seat, you know, I'm not really afraid of Resident Evil anymore, or The Dentist, or 1,000 Ways to Die, or any of the other ones that I talked about. Although Bloody Mary still kind of freaks me out. But that's a story for another day. Thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate you tuning in. This was a really cool video to make, thinking back on all these interesting things that a lot of people were scared of. I think that's the coolest part, is that while I was doing some research and reading comments and thoughts of other people, a lot of people shared these things that they were scared of. So I think that's pretty interesting that we can share something like that. So all that being said, please like, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a video. And have a wonderful day. Face your fears. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.